Hello Algebra 2 Trig students, this is Mr. Morris here. Today we're going to solve systems using inverse matrices. Our first goal is writing a system of equations as a matrix equation. So we're going to use matrices to write an equation. You really want to make sure when you do this that you've got this in the right order. And so it's very similar to how you would write a system to solve it using elimination. We want to have our x's lined up, our y's lined up, and then our numbers. And so when we have them in that order, we can use negatives, we can use fractions, decimals, as long as they're lined up. X's, y's equals numbers. So we're going to write our matrix equation. Well, first we need a matrix. And all I write in this first matrix are all my coefficients right here. So starting with this one, I'll write it in this spot. So -3, then 2, then 4, and -1. Now notice I put brackets on here, so that's a matrix. Now I'm going to have to multiply those by the variables. So the variables do come into play in our equation. So it's just going to be written as another matrix right here, and equal to the constants. So 5, -10. Now we've actually met goal 1. Now, don't really worry about too much why we write it like we do. We never really show you how to multiply matrices by hand, and we're not going to ask you that. And so to understand really exactly why this looks the same like it does from a system, we would have to show you how to multiply matrices by hand, and we're not going to do that. All right, next problem. You're definitely going to need your calculator here in a second. All right, so if you don't have it out, get it out. All right. Now, this next goal is to actually solve a linear system using inverse matrices with a graphing calculator. Now again, the first thing you want to do is make sure these are lined up. X's, y's, numbers, which I have here. Alright, now I'm going to go ahead and write the matrix equation just like I did before, but then we'll solve it. Then we'll use our calculator to do so. Now, I'm going to use -2 and 3. These are just the coefficients in front of my variables, -5 and 2. Just write them in the exact order that you have them there. So when you're solving this, we always write the matrix equation first. -19, and then 1. Now, when I get my calculator, I'm going to put this in my calculator as matrix A, and I'm going to also put this in my calculator in matrix B. Now, we never really put the variable matrix in our equation, in our calculator, because you really can't. And so we're just going to put A and B in our calculator, and I'll show you how that goes. I'm going to pause this and write something, so hold on a second. Okay, now what I have written over here in this little corner here, you do not have to write down. I just want to explain briefly why this part works the way it does, and then we'll move on. All right, so the goal here is actually to find what x and y are. And so what I'm really looking for is that in a second, I want to be able to solve for x and y. And so that is right here, over here, and also here. And again, you don't have to write this down. We're never going to ask you to actually show this part. All right? You do have to write down this part over here, and then I'm going to show you some additional things. Really, when we have two matrices on each side of an equation like this, I know a few students asked before when we're dealing with matrices in Chapter 1, do we divide matrices? And we really don't. There's really no way for us to do that. But what happens is, we actually need to get rid of this and create a 1 here. Just like when we have something like 2x equals 6, we divide by 2 and get a 1 there, or 1x. Or if we have 2/3 x, we might multiply by the reciprocal, 3/2 to get 1. The inverse matrix is equivalent to doing that. So what we have to do is multiply A inverse times A, and that results in 1. It's very similar to multiplying a fraction times its reciprocal. And so we're not really going to get into too much more matrix theory other than just a quick, I just wanted to show you how this works. If I multiply this side again, a inverse times a gives me 1. And then I'm just left with xy on the left. Well, if I do this to the left side, I also have to do this to the right side. And so the answer will actually be x, y in a matrix will equal a inverse times b. And so all we have to do is put these in our calculator. And so we'll put this matrix in our calculator as a 2 by 2. And if you remember, it's always row by column. So there are 2 rows and there are 2 columns. And then this matrix over here is a 2 by 1, or a row by columns is 2 by 1. Now, what's going to happen is we are in our calculator just going to write or type in a inverse b on our home screen. And when we multiply those two together, that will give us our answer matrix xy. And so let's get our calculator and see how this works. All right, so we're going to go to second, x to the minus 1, which is matrix. We're going to move over to edit. And we've done this before in chapter 1, but I'm going to go through it. Now, we'll hit enter, and we want to put in a as a 2 by 2. So it's going to be 2, enter, 2. And then when I type these numbers in, they go across, so negative 2, enter, negative 5, and then 3, 2. Make sure before you move on that you've typed this in correctly. The number one reason why students miss this is they forget how to do it entirely. And the other reason is you type in a number wrong. And so since these numbers are typed into your calculator, it's very hard to give you partial credit. So you have to be very careful. So I've got them typed in correctly. Then I'm going to go to second, matrix, move over to edit, and I want to edit B. So I'm going to move down or just hit 2 at this point. And then I can hit 2, enter, and then 1, and create a 2 by 1. And again, if you've got these numbers confused, you'll see right here that the matrix in your calculator will not match the one you want to type in, then you just adjust it. And so now I'm going to have negative 19 that I plug in. Oops, my 9 didn't show up. There we go. Negative 19 and 1. Oh, my calculator's being a little problematic right now. It's not following along with what I ask it to do. All right, anyway, so negative 19, 1. And then now I can quickly just do this part in my calculator. Whoops, I'll get the calculator back. So I'm going to go to my home screen now. You want to hit second, and then mode, which is quit. And then I'm going to tell it to multiply a inverse times b. So second, matrix. Whoops, I hit the wrong thing. I'm having problems with my calculator. So second, x to the minus 1, which is your matrix. And then I'll just hit number 1, and that'll pull up my A matrix. And then this button here, the x to the minus 1, is actually our inverse. So that times second, and then back to matrix. And we'll just choose 2, which is B. And when I hit enter, it'll give me the answer. All right, and so my answer to this, and I'm going to write it like this. What the calculator gave me right here was that, and I'll just write it like this, that xy was equal to the numbers negative 3, 5. Now see how the order of these match up. So equal matrices says that x is negative 3 and y is 5. We always write the system of equations as an ordered pair. So the answer to this, after all of that, is this. And it's very quickly when you run it. It goes a lot quicker when you run it in your calculator. I did a lot of talking here, but of course when you just do it on your own, it's fairly quick. All the stuff here, you have to write down. You do not have to write down this stuff in the little corner over here. All right, last problem. Same goal, it's just now we have a larger system of equations. And so we're going to do this exactly the same way as the other one. It's just we have more numbers. First we want to make sure that the x's line up, the y's line up, and the z's line up equals the numbers lined up. All right, so we'll write our matrix equation. This is going to be a 3 by 3 now because we have 3 equations in 3 variables. A 2 by 2, you have 2 equations in 2 variables. So you've got a 1, a 2, and a 4. Those coefficients. A 1, -1, -3. 1, -1, -3. And this is a 4. I know it looks a little bad, but so a 1, a -1, and -3, just checking those. A 2, a 3, and a -1. So that's my matrix for just my coefficients. It is called a coefficient matrix. Then I'm going to multiply that times my variables, or my variable matrix. Now in this case, again, I have these in the right order, so I go x, then y, then z this time. So x, y. Now my students know this, but I cross my z's so they don't look like 2's. Alright, that's my variable matrix, and that's going to be equal to my constants. 3, -4, -18. Now, I'm going to put this in matrix A. Now remember, this is 3 by 3, 3 rows by 3 columns. I'm going to put this in matrix B, which is a 3 by 1. And then I know that A inverse times matrix B, and this is always going to be the same the way I set these up. I just put them in there as A and B. So A inverse times B will give me, in this case, X, Y, and Z. Whoops. Sorry about that. Let me fix that up for you. Alright, let's do this real quick in the calculator and we will be done. So I'm going to go second matrix, edit. Now on this first one I need a 3 by 3. We'll type in our numbers here. 1, 1, 2. It just goes across. Oop, hit enter. And then 2, -1. And then 3. 4, -3, -1. And I know for a little bit this looked like a Y, but it's not. It's a 4. This matrix here will never, in this, the way we do these problems, have a variable in it. It's called your coefficient matrix. And then enter. And then we'll go back. Now again, make sure you type these in real quick correctly. 1, 2, 4, 1, -1, -3, 2, 3, -1. Then we'll go to second matrix. We'll edit B. And we need a 3. Oh, I went to the wrong one. Second matrix, edit. I got to hit number 2. So I go to matrix B. This is going to be a 3 by 1. Enter. And then 3. Enter. -4. Enter. And then -18. Make sure I type those in correctly, which I did. I'll go back to my home screen, so second mode, which is quit, and I'll go back and do the same thing I did in the last problem. Now I have 2 different matrices in there though. Second matrix A. Remember the -1 key is this x to the -1 times, and then second matrix number 2, which is B, and when I hit enter, I get my answers. -2, 3, 1. And so in this case, what's going to happen is this matrix X, Y, Z equals -2, 3, 1, which was on the screen a second ago. And we write the system of equation of a 3 by 3 answer as a ordered triple. So it'll go in this order: -2, comma, 3, comma, 1. And don't forget parentheses as well, just like a 2 by 2. Alright, that'll do it. I'll see you in class.